Imagine walking into a supermarket and seeing entire aisles stripped bare, not just a few gaps, but spaces so empty that the air itself feels heavy, your chest tightening with the thought that what you need might not be there at all. You stand in line for hours, not to socialize or protest, but because someone whispered that a truck delivered butter 2 streets over. The tiny victory of buying a single pack of sausage, a bar of soap, or a pair of warm socks could change the mood of your entire week. For millions of Soviet citizens, this was everyday life, exhausting, routine, and yet strangely full of rituals, resourcefulness, and human stories. Shortages in the USSR were not a passing problem or a result of a few bad years. They were woven into the very fabric of the system. Central planning, political priorities, logistics, product quality, social habits all collided to keep shelves bare. You could call it an economic failure, but for those living it, it was a landscape of daily life, a mixture of irritation, ingenuity, quiet triumphs, and small ceremonies of survival. There were jokes and bitterness, yes, but also tenderness, neighbors sharing a slice of bread, someone giving up their place in line, a family celebrating a modest piece of sausage like it was a banquet. It was a life shaped by absence, yet lived fully. To understand these shortages, start with the plan. Central planners in Moscow dictated production targets. How many shoes, tractors, or televisions each factory should produce. On paper, it sounds efficient. Tell factories what to make, and people will have what they need. In practice, predicting the desires and needs of hundreds of millions of people, scattered across diverse climates and local economies, was impossible. Factories were rewarded for hitting numbers, not for producing durable or desirable goods. A plant producing 1 million cheap, clumsy shoes was celebrated, while people needing comfortable footwear went without. Factories attempting higher quality were reprimanded for producing fewer items. Quantity over quality created perverse incentives, a vast disconnect between what was made and what people actually wanted. Logistics made the mismatch worse. Even when goods were produced, they might remain in warehouses, be sent to the wrong region, or spoil en route. The USSR spanned over 10 time zones, with vast distances and a transport system prioritizing heavy industry. Delivering condensed milk to a small village could involve a chain of trucks and trains that frequently broke down or were rerouted. On paper, stores received stock. In reality, shelves stayed empty. The phrase, "it's in the warehouse," became a collective sigh. People learned to distrust official reports of rising production when the supermarkets looked barren. Fixed prices intensified the problem. State-controlled pricing often kept essentials cheap, sparking demand far beyond supply. Cheap bread or butter flew off the shelves, and hoarding became instinctive. With no market mechanism to balance supply and demand, the appearance of goods triggered immediate buying, even if they weren't needed that day. The fear of missing out was a powerful motivator. The social side of scarcity was just as potent. Queues, long, patient, sometimes tense, sometimes warm, were the arena of the shortage economy. People became experts in line etiquette, whom to trust, how to hold a spot, how to trade or share. A newspaper, a stool, a bag could reserve a place. Families rotated morning or overnight watches, leaving children in line. Confident neighbors would care for them. Shops selling scarce items became more than marketplaces. They were social hubs. News, recipes, gossip, political debate, and favors flowed in line. Friendships blossomed. Arguments flared. The queue was a stage for life itself. Alongside the queues, an informal economy thrived. Asterisk, blat asterisk. Connections, favors, personal networks, a social currency. A cousin at a factory, a friend in a shop, a relative on a distribution team could grant access. Requests for sugar, meat, or a priority spot for furniture were common. Blat wasn't illegal in itself, though morally ambiguous, but in a world where official channels failed, it was essential. Then there was the black market, officially condemned but ubiquitous in practice. soap, cigarettes, film, jeans, all obtainable at a price. Risky but vital, it kept daily life running. For many, it wasn't moral compromise but survival. Scarcity shaped habits and values. Families hoarded jars, bags, tins, string anything might be useful. Mending and repurposing became routine. Old sweaters transformed into children's socks. Broken chairs became plant stands. Acts of repair and saving were expressions of dignity and self-reliance. Sharing food or soap created trust and social bonds. Invisible, yet strong. Ordinary items took emotional weight. A bar of soap, a roll of toilet paper, a can of condensed milk could elevate spirits for days. Rituals around scarcity, sharing, hiding, recounting the one that got away were learned early. Parents bringing home rare treats became heroes. Every small victory was celebrated. Cultural goods were scarce too. Books, records, radios, foreign films. Scarcity conferred value, shaped taste, aspirations, and glimpses of life beyond the system. Imported music or magazines opened secret windows to another world, sometimes thrilling, sometimes guilt-laden. Vehicles and durable goods were another stage of drama. Waiting lists for cars or appliances stretched for years. Imagine applying for a car and being told delivery would come in 5, 7, or 10 years. Life moved on, jobs, moves, children, but the promise of a car became hope itself. Privileged or connected individuals often received goods faster, stirring resentment among those waiting fairly. By the 1980s, shortages intensified. Sugar, soap, matches disappeared for weeks. Reforms couldn't keep pace. Empty shelves symbolized systemic cracks. Public conversation shifted toward the need for change. After 1991, markets opened. Goods became more accessible. Yet affordability and stability remained uneven. For Western audiences, these stories reveal systemic lessons. Scarcity wasn't luck. It reflected political and economic priorities favoring industry and defense over consumer comfort. Human responses were inventive and communal. Networks, barter, favors, and rituals allowed survival. Scarcity shaped culture. Humor, music, homes, and social norms bore its imprint. Stories and personal memories make the world tangible. The tap of children's shoes in long corridors, the smell of cheap tea, whispers of new coffee shipments, careful butter rationing. A woman standing 8 hours for soap-baked pastries for fellow line watchers when the shop closed early. A miner used connections to secure coal, quietly saving families from cold apartments. Ingenuity and kindness were as integral to daily life as empty shelves and long lines. The emotional texture of scarcity was complex. Frustration, pride, indignation, delight. Children learned patience, secrecy, repair, and gratitude. Gender roles were clear. Women bore most of the search for essentials, balancing work, childcare, and errand running. Men sometimes leveraged connections, but daily household labor fell to women. Skills developed in this informal economy became second nature. Scarcity bred creativity, repair, improvisation, carpentry, patching clothing, saving jars and lids. It maintained dignity, continuity, and survival. Identity grew around resourcefulness, patience, and endurance, an art of making do. Humor, songs, and stories kept spirits alive. The political dimension mattered. The state claimed fairness and shared resources, yet privilege allowed bypassing shortages. Humor, metaphor, and everyday language allowed citizens to discuss scarcity without confrontation. The late Soviet era brought rapid change. Markets opened, goods arrived, but inflation and price shifts introduced new uncertainties. Social networks built on scarcity adapted to a money-driven reality. Scarcity in the USSR was a mirror reflecting economic choices, political priorities, and social relations. It shaped speech, cooking, celebrations, and grief. It demanded ingenuity, patience, and communal life, but also exhausted, frustrated, and divided people. To hear these stories is to hear the rhythm of survival: footsteps in stairwells, whispered rumors of bread, kitchen drawers closing, neighbors' laughter. Scarcity was absence, but also creativity, community, and the human capacity to live fully, even when so much was missing.